So this is lesson 72, and it is finding the area of something, part 1. So the area, what that means is the number of square units needed to cover a surface. Well, if you think about it, sometimes if you look on the classroom floors, the floors are in tiles. And I know in 5th grade they have carpet, but in 6th grade they have square tiles. And each tile is 1 foot on each side. So if you just counted how many tiles you needed to cover the floor, that would give you the area in square feet. So I've got a little graph here, and we'll pretend like it's the floor of a classroom. We'll pretend like each of these is one of my tiles. So I counted them all up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I came all the way up to 48. So in order to cover up my classroom floor, I would need 48 square tiles. Okay, well that seems like a lot of work, doesn't it, to count each one? Isn't there a better way to do this? So if I take this, put it aside, and just look at my squares, I'm going to count this row and I'm going to count this column. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tiles across, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tiles deep. So the length and the width, 8 and 6. And if I just multiply, am I going to get 48? Yes, 8 times 6 is 48. So it's easier if I can just multiply the length times the width, or the columns, the amount of columns times the amount of rows. Okay, so let's look at example 1. They say in a classroom, the floor was the shape of a rectangle and was covered with 1 foot square tiles. So it's kind of going to look like this again, isn't it? They didn't draw that out in the picture, but that's okay. It says the room was 30 tiles long and 25 tiles wide. What was the area of the floor? So we can do exactly what we just did with my little 48 square tile classroom. This is a bigger classroom, isn't it? And I'm going to say 30 across and 25 deep, or length and width. And I know that I'm going to multiply the number of rows times the number of columns, so 30 times 25, and I'm going to get 750 square tiles is what I'm going to need to cover up the floor in that classroom. Okay, let's look at example 2. And I find, oops, here we go. Before we do that, I forgot. Let's talk about what a square inch is. So you'll hear, oh, so many square inches. Well, it's actually little inches that are 1 inch on each side. I mean, little squares. So this is a square. It's 1 inch here, 1 inch here, 1 inch here, 1 inch here. So that is a square inch. It really means a square that's 1 inch wide and 1 inch deep. If I multiply the length times the width, 1 times 1, I'm going to get 1, okay? Sometimes you'll see it with those little quotation marks afterwards. That means inches. Sometimes you'll see just IN. That means inches, and sometimes they write it out. Okay, so example 2 says use your ruler to measure the rectangle. How many square centimeters are needed to cover the area of this rectangle? So when we measured, and I'm going to use inches instead because they're a little bit bigger, but you guys use centimeters in your book. I see that it's 1, 2, 3 inches long, and it is 1, 2, 2 centimeters, or inches in my case, wide. And so all together, 3 times 2 is 6, but let's double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 of these little square inches, right? So 6 square, and when you measure it, you're going to find you're going to have 6 square centimeters. The book shows you that, and they actually use centimeters. They're just small, it's hard to see. Okay, let's go back to example 3. And I see that they want us to estimate. So they've got a room, And they say that it's 14 feet 3 inches long, and it's 12 feet 8 inches wide. So they want us to estimate the area. So I'm going to take 14 feet 3 inches. I'm going to say, is that closer to 14 feet or 15 feet? Well, 14 feet, because 6 inches would be half in the middle, right? And 12 feet 8 inches is closer to 13 feet, right? Because it's 6 is the middle, so 8 is bigger than the middle. So I'm going to round that to 14, round that to 13, and I know the area is the length times the width, so 14 times 13, and I get 182, and my units are square feet. So it's going to be a bigger than my square inches. That's more like a classroom. So usually you would measure that in square feet. If you're measuring tiles, you're going to say, I need 182 square feet of tile to cover up my room. They wrote it out. You'll see square feet. Sometimes you see square foot with the abbreviation, or sometimes you see FT with a little 2 on the top, and that means square feet as well. So you see it a couple of different ways. Okay, example 4, gets a little trickier. They're asking you to do a lot in example 4. So they say Maggie has a display case for a model car. The case is 30 centimeters long, 10 centimeters wide, and 14 centimeters high. So I tried to draw the little case. Maggie wants to paint the ends of the case. So she's going to paint this piece right here and this piece over here you can't see. So it says choose a formula to find the area of the ends she wants to paint. So let's pretend like this is my display case. And I know she wants to paint this piece right here, doesn't she? Well, how big did we say that is? We said that this is 10 and this is 14. Dimensions are a little bit off, but you get the idea. So when I multiply the length times the width, what is 10 times 14? Oh, 140. And that is in centimeters, so it's square centimeters. But now I have to do this side, right? Because she wants to paint both ends. So this is 10, this is 14, so I have another 140. So I've got 2 ends, and I've got 280 square centimeters, right? Okay. Now it says Maggie also wants to glue a border around the top. Okay, so here's my top. Let's do it this way so I have more room. How many millimeters should she buy? So they want to find the distance around. What do you call that? The distance around something. It's not the area, is it? It's perimeter. So I know that this was 10 centimeters. This was, let me do it here, 30. This was 10, and this was 30 centimeters, right? So that's my top. And how do I find that distance around? Do I have a formula? Can I say 2 times the length and 2 times the width? So perimeter equals 2L plus 2W. So 2L is going to equal 60. 2W is going to equal 20. So I have 80 centimeters. If I go all the way around and measure 10 plus 30 is 40, plus 10 is 50, plus 30 is 80, okay? And now they want me to change that into millimeters. Do you remember how to do that? Remember that there are 10 millimeters in every centimeter? So 80 centimeters equals 800, I don't know why I did milliliters, sorry. Getting on to science instead of math. Millimeters, right? Okay, does that make sense? Okay, that's tricky. They ask you to do a lot in that problem. Do you see how I did a Kleenex box? Make sure your mom's okay with you write on it, but Kleenex boxes are really handy if you have these area and perimeter models and surface area and stuff. I use a lot of Kleenex boxes because usually it's no big deal if you write on them. And it helps me to like see, oh, end, that's what they're talking about. So do your best with this stuff. It's not hard, but it's a lot. So practice, practice, practice. Good luck.